He had everything, more than most people could even dream of. Luxury mansion is spread across the world. Private jet waiting on AI strips. Cars lined up in glass garages, shining like trophies. Every morning, he woke up to servants waiting at his door. Every evening, he walked into ballrooms filled with music, lights, and people who bowed at his name. He was a billionaire, and yet he was not happy. People saw only the wealth. They saw the gold watches, the tailored suits, the empire he had built. But they did not see the truth. They did not see the emptiness that followed him. He owned skyscrapers, but his heart was hollow. He had hundreds of people working for him. Yet when the night came, he sat alone. Money had given him power, but it had stolen his peace. He could buy paintings older than countries. He could fly to any place in the world with one phone call. And still, inside, there was silence. A silence he could not escape. This is how his story begins. Not with success, not with victory, but with a question. A question that would one day change his life. The question was simple, yet it carried the weight of his entire existence. Is this all there is? One night, in the mansion, he sat alone. The rooms were silent. The city lights glittered through the windows. But inside, he felt nothing. He poured himself a drink. The glass clinkered against the marble table. The sound echoed in the emptiness of the hall. He looked around. Gold statues, expensive art, walls covered in treasures most people would never see. And still, he felt poor. Poor in the one thing money could not buy, peace. He asked himself, quietly at first, then louder, until it filled the whole room. Is this all there is? He whispered again. Is this all there is? He had money. He had power. He had everything people dream about. But none of it touched his soul. He realized it. His life was filled with things, but empty of meaning. For the first time, he felt the weight of his choices. All his life, he had been climbing, chasing, collecting, owning. But what was the point? If at top of the mountain, there was nothing waiting? That night was the beginning, not the end of his wealth, not the end of his empire, but the beginning of a new search. A search not for more, but for less. That one question, simple but powerful, broke something inside him. It was the spark that would push him to walk away from it all. The question that would lead him to the life of a monk. The next morning, he woke up, but something was different. He didn't reach for his phone. He didn't call his assistant. He just sat in silence. For years, every day began with numbers, meetings, and deals. But now, all he could hear was the echo of that question. Is this all there is? That week, he made the decision. He called his lawyers. He called the bankers. He told them words they never expected to hear. Sell it. Sell everything. The art was sold, the cars were gone, the mansions emptied. One by one, the treasures disappeared, until the life he built no longer belonged to him. He closed accounts, he ended meetings, he shut doors. The man the world knew was fading away. Then came the moment. He stood in front of his last mansion, one suitcase in his hand, nothing else. He looked at the gates, the gardens, the tall windows he once called home, and he whispered, "Goodbye." No bodyguards, no assistants, no private jets, just a man and a suitcase. That was the day he walked away from being a billionaire and toward something unknown. He didn't know where the path would take him, but he knew this. Sometimes, to find yourself, you must first lose everything. He left the city, he left the noise, he left the world that once chased him. His steps carried him far, through mountains, through villages, through silence. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, until finally he found himself standing before a monastery. The sound of bells, the smell of incense, the sight of men in robes. For the first time in years, his heart felt still. He knocked at the wooden gates, and when they opened, he spoke simple words, "Teach me how to live." The monks welcomed him, not as a billionaire, not as a powerful man, but as a seeker. He shaved his head, he put on robes, he placed prayer beds around his feet. The diamonds were gone, the silk suits replaced by cloth, the noise of the city replaced by silence. He learned to wake before sunrise. He learned to bow before the altar. He learned to walk barefoot on stone and earth. For the first time, he wasn't chasing money. He wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing silence. And in that silence, he discovered something he had never known before: peace. Not the peace money buys, not the peace of luxury, but the peace of a heart with nothing to prove. Life in the monastery was not easy. There were no soft beds, no silk sheets, no servants waiting at his call. Everything had to be done by hand. At dawn, he swept the floors of the temple. At noon, he carried water from the well. At night, he washed bowls in cold water. Simple task, but for him, they were heavy. Because he was used to comfort, he was used to command. Now, he had to serve. His body ached, his hands blistered. At night, the heart flow gave him no rest. He thought of his mansions. He thought of his golden bed. He thought of the life he left behind. And sometimes he wondered if he had made a mistake. But then, in the quiet of night, he heard something. The sound of monks chanting, soft, slow, like waves of peace, moving through the air, and his heart began to soften. Day by day, his body grew stronger, his hands tougher, and his heart lighter. He discovered something strange, that hard work, could also be prayer. That sweat could also be peace. In the world of money, he was always running, but in the world of silence, he was finally learning how to stand still. For the first time, he felt alive. The challenges did not break him, they changed him, they shaped him, and slowly they freed him. People ask him, why would a man with everything give it all away? A man with power, with cars, with palaces, why would he walk into silence? He answered softly, because owning everything is not freedom. Letting go is freedom. In his old life, he was surrounded by people, but still he felt alone. In this life, he was surrounded by silence, and yet he felt connected. He found joy in small things. The taste of plain rice, the sound of temple bells, the laughter of children, running barefoot on the earth. Things money could never buy. He realized something powerful, that peace does not lie in gold. It does not lie in mansions. It does not lie in jets. Peace lies inside. And once he found it, nothing else mattered. He did not run from the world. He simply stopped chasing it. And in the stillness, he discovered the greatest treasure of all, the treasure of freedom. This was why he chose this life. When the world discovered what he had done, it became news everywhere. The billionaire who gave away his fortune, the billionaire who became a monk. Some billionaires looked. They called him foolish. They said he had lost his mind. But others were not looking. Some admired him. Some whispered that he had found the truth. They themselves were afraid to face. Around the world, his story spread. In villages, people lit candles for him. In sites, people argued about him. Some called him a saint. Some called him a fool. But he did not answer. Because he was not chasing approval. He was not chasing headlines. He was not chasing fame. He was chasing truth. And the world realized something, that maybe, just maybe, the richest man alive was not the one with the most money, but the one who had the courage to let it all go. This was how the world reacted. In the end, there were no mansions, no cars, no private jets, only silence. And there was a man who once owned everything, but now he lived with almost nothing. Yet, for the first time in his life, he felt rich. People came from far away, asking him for advice, asking him for the secret to happiness, and he answered with only a few words. He said, money can buy comfort, but peace comes only when you let go. So in the end, he was not a billionaire, he was not a businessman, he was not a name in the news, he was simply a monk, a man who found what money could never buy. And that was his final message. Thanks for watching, guys.